Okay, so Allison.
Yep, Allison Stroy, East Boothbay resident.
Okay, and Valerie.
Hi, I'm Valerie Young. I work at Bigelow Laboratory. Debbie can't make this meeting, so I'm just attending in her stead.
Great, thank you very much. All right, and then see if I can switch my speaker over to the television. So we'll try that. Carmela?
Hi, actually, this is David and Scamarucha, and my wife is Carmela. We live at 281, or have a house at 281 Ocean Point.
Great, thank you. I'm Nell Thorpe.
I'm Allison Evans.
And I'm Philip Conkling, Stakeholder Outreach for New England Aquaventus.
So it looks like we've got people from both Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor here. We don't have any invited guests today. We did email someone from DOT, and I'm sorry that I'm blanking on his name, but did not hear back. So we're gonna have to look to see if we have phone information, because it may go to junk mail because it's something that doesn't get recognized. You know, our email address may not be recognized, so it may just go to junk mail.
Right.
So we may have to make a phone contact and ask people to look in their junk mail. And we have an email ready to go to the superintendent of schools, who has expressed interest in coming, but wanted to just kind of get up to speed. They were invited to this and given the information. Okay, and Valerie Young is saying her power is out, so if she drops off, that is why. So thanks for letting us know, Valerie. So, with that being said, our work today is probably primarily going to be filling in on the matrix, unless somebody has any other recommendations at this point. So, floor is open before we start. Go ahead.
Nell, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Allison Evans for doing the notes from the last meeting. They're really good, and she captures things very well. Not just last meeting, but the other meetings as well. One of the things I wanted to suggest for the next email that goes out for the next meeting is to actually put a link to the matrix also on it, so that people can click on that link to check out the matrix before the meeting or during the meeting, if they want to follow along with what's being changed as we go through it. So, but thank you, Allison, and thank you, Nell, for also being there and doing the agendas as well.
Yep, and I appreciate you saying that, because I meant to put that in the email, but I'm
glad I'm doing a good job.
at the crack of dawn this morning before I had to leave, so it was one of those things that got missed. So I appreciate that. All right, so let me see if I can figure out sharing this so everybody can see it. Nope, I want to move it first. Okay, hang on one second. Sorry to be so technically challenged. Oh, it is there. Oh, it's mirroring it. Okay. And we should be good. So can everybody see the matrix?
Yes, it's very small though.
Okay, I will make it larger.
Yeah.
I will try to make it larger. It's got my Zoom thing right in front. There we go. All right. How's that?
Better, but still very small.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's as big as it's going to go for now.
Okay.
Is that viewable?
Yes, I think if you read through it, as you do things, I think people, I've got glasses on and I think it's small, but I don't know.
All
See.
right. Yeah, I think it's gonna depend what kind of device you're viewing on as well, so.
True. I'm on my phone, so.
Yeah, so that makes it really small. Okay, got it. So we had talked about the sewer expansion. I'm gonna slide over to road and traffic. That is what we talked about last time. We had wanted to move forward talking about the, let's see, electricity. We talked about water last time too, so I'm gonna scroll, sorry about that. And I can't keep what's on the side visible. All right, close your eyes for a second. I'm gonna look at this side. I don't know how to lock these, so. Description, public health, safety, considerations, and number of people affected. Okay, so last time we talked about the public water supply. And I've already forgotten what those categories were. Cannot keep my head. I can't do two things.
No,
Yes. Go ahead.
I think you can freeze a column.
Yes,
I don't know if
you can. I just don't know how.
yeah, I agree. I don't know how either. I think maybe right click, but I'm not totally sure unless I'm fooling around with it.
I have right click capability at this moment.
So the other thing you can do, Nell, is just shrink or hide the columns in between so that you just minimize them, and then it'll be right next to the first column if you get to the column you want. That could be an alternative. Yeah.
I don't know how you do that though.
So slide the hover over.
Oh, I see. Just do it manually.
Just manually do it just to make it easy if you can. Yep. Can it won't do it.
I have a simpler solution.
Okay.
Taking a picture of it on my phone, and it will just, sorry, my brain just does not do that. Okay, so we did not update this from last meeting. That's what I'm trying to say. Saying it badly, but trying to say it. There we go. So
I'd be happy to read you my notes.
yeah. Oh, so what is the description of year-round public water supply?
So the notes that I took from John Siegra were, he talked about saltwater intrusion issues from what I understood, and I may have this wrong, Barlow Hill to Lincoln Street area. And the priority of the water district is to convert those areas to year-round district water supply.
One question I would have is, are there other areas that are experiencing the same problems in East Boothbay, out to Ocean Point even? And then also, how many people are we talking about in terms of having just a well, seasonal, and seasonal, I guess, those two things.
So this is people who just have a well and no seasonal. So that was one of the things we talked about.
Yep.
Yeah, this is crazy. So with the same issues, And so one of their solutions that they talked about was to have, to do year-round water, or to run, and potentially to run temporary summer lines right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is ongoing, has nothing, is gonna be dealt with well before we make any decision, because people having potable water is important.
Yeah, I think on Lincoln Street, they did it the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
They did at least one house, maybe even more than one.
Ah. Yes, and I know there was one on Barlow Hill as well. So,
There's something about the being a loop, because it'll create fire, there's a lot
Yes.
of fire safety issues involved, right?
yes. Thank you.
And they were saying that this project, you know, I think I missed this part in action right I'm taking, because I stapled it to the back of the page, but, so it's actually not in these notes, but, they're in their third revision already of figuring out the loop at Barlow Hill. That's pretty far along. It's not a first priority right now, because they've got a bunch of other projects in line, but if they had funding for it, they would move it to the beginning of the line.
Right,
They said that it was, under $400,000 for the completion of the
okay,
project.
so cost goes down to here. Cost estimate under, oops. Yeah, I've got myself ahead of myself. Sorry, I'm talking to myself.
Interesting fact that I learned listening to the last meeting with the Washburn fire, the reason they couldn't fight it was because there was a vacuum, because there was no loop in the water line.
I was well aware of that. We got burned. My house got burned because there was no water.
I didn't realize, I mean, that makes sense that there would be a vacuum. if there
Vacuum.
isn't a kitchen.
Yep.
Which
I
is
think
the
that's a
reason
very
for the loop.
attractive, that's a very attractive,
I
you
think,
know.
yeah, the loop was one of the major points that he was making for, but not just for water for domestic use, but for
Right.
firefighting and.
So firefighting is the primary purpose of the water district. Potable water is actually secondary. Yeah. Still a priority, but fire is their first priority. So,
And they said that, you know, it's pretty straightforward to put in water lines. They don't have to go that far
oh, right.
underground. There's less research that needs to go into it.
All right, let me see if
And they call it a PAYGO project.
yes. Long-term impact. So it does not require the depth or sanitary concerns of sewer. And the longer term effect is improved fire safety and potable water. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. So questions about this? Other municipal state entities required. So that's our last category. So that is the Boothbay Region Water District, and that's the only other entity that would be required. And I will say from my experience that Mr. Zigra is aggressive about seeking additional funding options. and that there have been a number available lately that they are loan-based, but then have loan forgiveness of all or a portion, so that can decrease the associated costs. All right, what other topic do we want to, oops, that's in the wrong location, excuse me. I'll put over here, there we go. Oh, and now it's changing. I hate computers. I love them.
So, Nell, before we jump off this topic, are
Yeah.
we just considering those with wells, or are we considering year-round for seasonal?
So my understanding is that when the water district looks at this, other people on the route would be able to, they would be able to hook up if they wanted to. And I don't believe the water district, they don't have a ready to serve fee or anything like that. So if it goes by and people wanted to connect, they can. There may be costs associated with coming from the main into the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But what about year-round versus seasonal?
Well, they're talking about year round.
Okay.
That's
Because
all.
there's a lot of people on seasonal water that may want to go year-round.
I know people who have wells that, you know, they use their wells in the wintertime, but then.
That's
to
what I
take the
do.
Pressure off, they use the summer water.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah, my well was dry this summer. I had to, I mean, I was on seasonal already, but so that is part of the discussion. And I know that we had talked about bringing it up. For example, there's year-round water on School Street and part of Green Landing Road going up to Bigelow, but it ends at Bigelow. So making a loop around the rest of Green Landing Road to come through to Bigelow for the fire safety issue and letting those houses connect to year-round water. So I know there's interest. Again, we would have to put it out to the community to determine how big the project would be. The places where it's year-round people on year-round wells with saltwater incursion would be the priority. And then the rest would just depend on funding, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe that should be part of our question about this one on the survey.
Okay.
Or I don't know, think about that. I don't know if we need to get a sense from people who might be interested to go, you know, I know the priority would be those on wells, but how many would want to go to full-time year-round instead of using wells? I don't know. Just something to, if we want to know that metric, I guess, something to think about.
Yep, go to. Okay. Okay, great.
No, and for the others who have been to all the meetings, are water and sewer completely separate? And are they things, I just am totally ignorant about this, but are they things that definitely like don't always go together and they're not a pair?
They are completely separate districts. They are completely separate
Oh.
services. They have to be geographically separated in the utility easement for sanitary reasons.
Right.
So they are in this region, they are completely separate. In other places, it's a single utility district that manages both water and sewer.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And they're regulated differently. So the water is regulated under the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, but sewer is not. So they have different regulatory requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes it complicated. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so that was last time, just catching up. Thank you for your help.
I totally, that page in my notes never made it onto the computer.
Okay.
I need to add that.
Okay, well, we can send out revised notes. All right, so, other things that people what would everybody like to cover today? I don't think we can put down what we think in the electric utility improvements and fixed electric utility contract to flesh it out, what we're thinking about. It may not be feasible, but we don't have the experts here, but I have a couple of asks for tonight's meeting. One is, I'd like to try and flesh out this page of the matrix so we can start talking with the register and get something in the paper and move this process along. I don't know about all of you, but having extra meetings is not my idea of a good time. We need to do what we need to do, obviously, but we'd like to get public input, and we can't do it till we get the matrix done. So that's the first thing. The other is I'd love to have a timeline for when we want each of these steps to be done. So if you look at your minutes, it says what things we want to do. We've identified we wanted to get postcards out. We identified we wanted to have the survey done. We have to have the matrix done in order to do the survey. And we'd like to have an article in the paper. So we have a plain language description for the general community that they can link to, and that the survey link can be in an article with from the paper, so it's easily accessible from social media, or if people have a e-subscription to the register. So figuring out the timing of that would be very helpful.
I feel like we're getting pretty close. I mean, this matrix is getting.
Yeah.
pretty well filled in.
It is. So public health or safety considerations for a fixed electric utility contract.
This was Dan's thought, and I never understood it, I have to confess.
Yes, and I did speak to Dan and asked him to participate, or someone else. Oh, so here's another piece of information that I left off the agenda. I did go speak to the Boothbay Select Board last Wednesday, a week ago, and told them about this group, about what we're doing, about Aquaventus's requirement that the agreements, whatever benefits agreements, what did you call them before, Philip?
Community benefit agreement.
Yes,
CBA.
a community benefit agreement, that it would have to go to both towns for to be finalized. They're the entities that NEAV wants to work with. So we can, as a community group, we can make proposals and bring everything forward, but the towns have to do the next step. And so I wanted the Boothbay Select Board to be well aware of that. At some point, we'll need to go back to the Boothbay Harbor Select Board to make sure that they also understand that. So that was an important piece. And then the other important piece, I think, that came out of the last meeting was Rob saying that the community benefits would only occur once all permits were in place and the decision was made to actually move forward with the project, because until all permits are in place, you don't have a guarantee that you can move forward with it. And then at that point, NEAV obviously has the opportunity to decide whether they move forward with it or not. Once they get all the permits. So that's a timeline piece in terms of the bigger picture and what the ask is. So let's say the water district decides to move forward with putting in year-round water prior to all the permits being received by NEAV. It's probably not going to be one of the projects. Okay. It sounded like the timing would actually work when Mr. Ziegler was talking, but just want to make sure everybody understands that. So fixed utility contract my understanding, and I may be wrong, so anybody else who was at the meeting where Dan talked about it, was that the value of the power coming in from the windmill might somehow be used to uniformly offset the cost of power to the citizens of the towns. That was my understanding of it. I may be way off base. So we can either talk about it or we can let it go for this meeting and see if we can follow up with Dan at a later date. What do people think?
I'm not sure how they would.
Hi, this is Dave. Just a thing about power coming through. Aquaventus is going to be generating the power, but they're going to be selling the power or moving the power through other conduits through central main power or moving the power through. So
Yes,
the actual fixed discount item would probably involve quite a bit of negotiation between all of the parties involved who are actually generating and transmitting the power. So that may end up being a more complicated, not saying it's impossible, but it may be a more complicated proposition to come in, and then dealing with the amount of discount, the length of discount. So it may require a bit more research as to how Aquaventus is going to be distributing that power, and who is going to basically who is going to get the discount, or who can apply the discount. Say if they sell the power to central main power, is central main power going to be able to cut a deal where people in East Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor receive a X amount discount over X amount of years? Something of that nature.
right. Yeah, it does seem complicated. Just wanna, okay, let's see if we can get, there we go. And again, I'll follow up with Dan just to see if he has anything that would give us more information to know who to even speak with. Because I'm not, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I get my power through central main power. I'm again in Delaware. I'm based in Delaware, so we have about 3 different power companies that we can potentially buy power from. So I don't know if central main power is the only name of the game in there, or if there are other companies that are available, and it would depend on who Adventus is actually selling the power to and who they're using to distribute, I guess.
Right.
So here's the way I understand it, and
Thank you.
I'm not an expert, but any power producer, whether it's Aquaventus or anybody
Yep.
that owns a windmill or solar, what have you, says this is the rate that we will sell power to the grid, right? And the PUC has to approve that as in the public interest, it's got a
Yep.
whole list of criteria and so on and so forth. Obviously, for the cost of one turbine to run a research project, that is going to produce power for a limited number of customers. The per unit price is fixed in what's called a PPA, a power purchase agreement, that is approved by the PUC, and that's what CMP has to pay.
Yeah.
For whatever power is provided. And then if CMP were asked to discount that to,
Right, PUC would have to
Well,
approve
they've
it.
already negotiated that price, haven't they? What's that?
I know, that's in.
Okay,
I think it's in the works. I mean, there is discussion, but it's not been decided yet.
and it hasn't, and nothing's been approved by PUC.
Right.
So PUC would have to approve any agreement. Which,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and CM.
and that's unlikely to occur.
Yeah, and CM, I mean, everybody knows, I think, that it's going to be expensive power
Yes,
because there's no economy of scale.
right,
So making it even more expensive it'll be socialized over all of the CMP users. So
right,
it'll be, pennies or something like that per kilowatt hour. It won't be entirely visible, but they're not going, I mean, it's gonna be hard to get them to then increase it again to
right,
pay for the discount.
right, because then does that in fact increase the cost to all the other ratepayers in the state?
Yeah.
And so the other ratepayers are actually subsidizing
That is
the
correct.
discount. And I certainly understand. Oh, stop that.
Sure.
So this is why we have this discussion. And particularly if people in the region would prefer, and I'm putting some of the discussion right in here just so we can capture it right now. Most of the people that I have heard from in the region don't want to see a number of windmills. And so if the economy of scale was the requirement to get a discount, this would not be of a great deal of interest. But I believe this stimulated my thinking that what Dan had suggested was that provided the UMaine platform succeeds, that sales of that platform is where the discount came from, not so that it came from.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it came from the sales of the discount, not from the negotiation.
Okay.
So that's
So that's then a negotiation with University of Maine and their contractors.
okay. Thank you. I'll see if I can capture that. Watch my notes, please.
Thanks for letting me throw that out there.
Yeah, it's very helpful. That's why we have everybody together, because nobody can do this and think through all these things by themselves. So have to be with
Be in effect a royalty payment.
Maine?
Yeah, a royalty payment off the sale of the intellectual property. Because they patented the design, so.
So my understanding was that it would be like through, yeah, I guess it would have to be UMaine, because like if Mitsubishi is doing these, but somebody else could also get access to it. They're not going to have they're not going to have exclusive rights to it.
Whatever foundation design Mitsubishi or anybody
Right,
does, they're going to pay a royalty to the company that has that's gotten a patent
right,
or, controls,
or,
the intellectual property.
okay, I'm just going to put patent holder. Okay,
So when someone said, this one's a complicated one, that's an understatement.
yes, yes. Yeah, but again, the instructions we were given or the recommendations were to dream big, think about everything, and then we go from there determining whether or not it's feasible. So this may be, and one of the recommendations we had was to, have some feasibility criteria, which we have not yet developed. So that was very helpful. Thank you, everybody. All right.
Did you add a column for ease of execution? Ease of execution to the matrix? Do you think
I
we should have
did
that?
not.
I think that's could be kind of help, helpful.
Shared funding, issues that require follow-up.
Yeah, kind
On the
of
scale
low, medium,
or
high.
something like that, just
Right.
Okay,
how much,
ease of execution. Okay, we'll just leave it there and we can adjust it as needed. All right. So I want to go for low hanging fruit to keep everything moving right now. Let's finish the lines for the road and traffic improvements if possible. This is obviously something that would serve pretty much everybody, whether they're local, year-round, seasonal, or transient. So
The one, item that, our guest, I forgot his name, last time, 2 weeks ago, talked about were those, movable, rumble strips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matt, right. And that's not.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you have Philip speak up? Because it's hard to
yeah.
hear.
yeah,
Okay, thanks.
that's why I wanted to bring my separate camera and mic. Let me turn. There you go.
So Matt, who attended 2 weeks ago, talked at some length about the issues associated with portable or, removable rumble strips or mats.
Yep.
And that can be taken up or put in place. And I don't think that's on the list.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was from last time, so this hasn't been updated since then, so. And I just heard back from DOT. Perfect timing.
we also talked about, temporary islands also, right?
Right. you mentioned-
Yeah, I
Those
think,
become more of a hazard,
I think that was the,
don't put that in.
come on. Okay. My poor computer is, I'm wearing the keys out, starting not to work when I hit them. So, so the response from our contact at DOT, who's David Allen, Mid-Coast Region Traffic Engineer, is thank you for your email. I would be happy to set up a Teams meeting during normal business hours to discuss what may be possible for pedestrian and bicycle facilities. Excuse me, as well as possible traffic calming measures. I'm gonna trust you guys, don't have COVID. So, apologize. No, I'm just thinking about, we're right on this topic when he emailed. I mean, the email just came in just this second.
You also mentioned handicap crossing.
That would be ADA
Okay,
accessibility.
there you are, right, okay, right, yeah, so I think you have, and a professional traffic study.
And I know that there has been a group in the region who's worked on the bicycle paths and sidewalks going up to Clifford Park. So they may also be able to provide some input. I don't know who's on that group. I'm sure Dan will know. So that will be one of the to-do things, is to reach out to Dan. So not to sidewalk bike path. Not to reinvent the wheel.
I've been several groups that we even talked about having bike paths up through Ocean Point as well.
Yeah, the bigger issue there is the width of the road and encroachment onto people's property to create such a thing, so that becomes a lot more complicated, even though there is public right of way. So the public right of way, the interesting thing about the public right of way is it has a fixed size based on the type of road. So if it's a state road, it's wider than if it's a town road. And in theory, it goes from the center of the road, but when you look at the tax maps, the road is in the right of way, but it may be off to one side or it may be off to the other. It wasn't, it was the road was laid
Right.
first and the right of ways were based later on probably old survey or land things. So for some people, that's part of why you need the studies, because you have to actually see where the right of way is in order to be able to know where you would have to place it. So that's why some places you'll see that the sidewalk's going up the left side of the road and then all of a sudden it's on the right side of the road. And that has to do with public right of way. Yes. So most of us think we own to the road, but we often and usually do not. All right, so going down the list here. Short-term effects for the community for installing all these things. Minimal disruption, I would think. Anybody have experience with what went going up to Clifford?
There's no
It seemed to go quickly.
Yeah. It went quickly. Okay. So yeah, I think it's minimal, so I'm gonna stop. Go away. Thank you for your patience with my typing.
Thank you for doing all of the typing now. This is great. And it's nice to watch along.
Yeah, I found that it really helps to see it in real time because then it stimulates your brain. Okay, and then it has a wide-ranging benefit. And same here. So I think the benefit is a long-term. Oh, I know there's another thing that is not on here. Which was potential for parking.
both ends.
And whether that would be parking at Bigelow and an agreement with Bigelow, whether it would be the East Boothbay municipal lot, whether there would be room adjacent to the substation if CMP actually owns a bigger footprint there, or whether agreement could be made with the small mall, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that would be, let's go down here and see where is that. Road Commissioner, State DOT. And I'll go to, that's not what I want you to do. Okay, so that made me think about going back to the benefit. Did I just put that in the wrong column? If I did, I apologize. Okay, it's a minimal disruption, a wide-ranging benefit, but there may be issues with easements for adjacent property. So that would be part of the study. So depending on where the right of way is. And actually one of the other short term things is ease of implementing with cable installation. Because I think that's a short-term consideration that needs to be put out there. And you can correct spelling and yell at me anytime. It's hard having the screens and everything cattywampus. All right, we are at 5:53 already. Holy moly, this has gone quick. All right, what is this? Shared funding required. I would say probably no. What do you think, Philip?
So the one thing I can contribute is that Rob, I think perhaps by the next meeting or the meeting after that is going to have some guidance.
An update.
Yes,
Oh, guidance about what
what
the potential funding
what
might
the-
be.
yeah, what
So we're
the-
not just
not
playing with
what the
millions and
northern-
millions of
what the
dollars.
northern limit
Okay.
is, you know, or anyway, so north of this and south. of
Okay,
that
we'll leave
kind
it
of
as
thing.
possibly until we know more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, so he will speak, he plans to speak to that sooner rather
Soon.
than.
Okay,
later.
great, great. Yeah, that will make it much easier for us. All right, and I see some chats here. Let me, oops. Oh. Hello, I want to see it. Show the chats. Yeah, all right. So, there's the chat. Okay, that'll leave. Okay, so that was Allison leaving, and all right. And I'm gonna stop sharing right now. There. Okay, so for our next meeting, let's I will commit to reaching out to whatever this person's name is. I apologize. David
Allen.
David Allen.
I'd say he wanted to meet during regular business hours.
Right. So I can do that because I'm self-employed. I have a flexible
Great.
schedule. If anybody else wants to join, please just pop an email to the Boothbay Community Benefits at gmail.com address. If it's just he and I, it'll be quicker to arrange. More people, the more complicated it is, but we can always do a doodle poll if there's a number of people who would like to attend. If you wanted to attend, Philip,
No,
I think it's just informational.
I don't think I think you just need to ask a few questions.
Yeah.
Right.
So anybody want to put forward the questions to ask?
Yeah, I mean, so if we're gonna be talking about the fixed utility, I mean, that's one of.
No, this is
Oh, this
DOT.
is DOT, oh, sorry.
DOT, so it's all the things we were just talking about.
essentially, traffic calming studies require, what are they require,
How do you do them?
how do you do them? Who does them? How,
Okay.
are there funding sources for that additional, matching
Right.
funds are available? Does DOT do any of that itself in-house?
Or is it all
Or
contracted?
is it all contract?
And the same with the bike path, because those are two very separate issues,
Right.
but they go together because particularly in the places where you need the traffic calming measures, if you're putting a bike path, you're making one more complication. Any other thoughts from Valerie or I apologize, I don't remember names, so Carmela and spouse,
David.
David, thank you.
No, that-
No.
that'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll report back at the next meeting with what he said, and if we meet by Zoom, I will ask his permission to record it. So that we can get a transcript of it, which will make it easier for people. All right, we have another meeting in 2 weeks.
September 15th.
September 15th, and hopefully our meeting 2 weeks after that, which is September 29th.
So that would be September 29th.
Yeah, we're gonna try and do a 2-hour meeting on September 29th to kind of make sure we have all of our ducks in a row to move to the next public participation piece of this.
So is this one, I mean, you said that you brought what we're doing to the selectmen of Boothbay.
Yeah.
Is this something that we're gonna be presenting to both towns, or is this
So-
something that we're gonna be presenting to?
We will have to, so we're gonna have to present it to the people of the communities. So, and have them decide what their first, second, third choice is. Based on hopefully a list that we've generated and found feasibility. If sewer is just not feasible, we'll take it off the list. And then when we, as a community group, have decided what it is that we want to do, then we will take it to the 2 towns and ask them to craft an agreement with.
Right, where's
Yeah.
the survey come in?
It's that, so that's part of what we have to nail down, but we got to get the matrix.
And is that by
done
the
enough.
29th?
I'm hoping by the 29th, we're winding that process up so that we are ready to have potentially have the register either at the 29th or the next meeting, which will be the week after. So, because if we can get because it's the first and third Thursday of the month.
Right.
And so we've added this extra meeting, there'll be one a week after, so if we can have all of our ducks in a row ready to go, the survey ready, the postcard written, the link on, then meet with the register, have them and do it all simultaneously, that would be my thought. I'm happy to have other people chime in about how they think it will work best.
So that would be October 6th would be, so that.
Yes,
Yeah, so the 15th, the 29th, October 6th. So the 15th is maybe to.
did you
I
say
will-
Rob would be at that meeting or the one?
Yes,
Okay,
I will.
yeah.
I will urge him to be there, and I'm pretty sure he will. He plans to be. And I think he's gonna give guidance on
Right.
sort of the financial part of this. the
Which we
commitment.
really want before we go to the bigger public.
Correct, and that's important for the survey, because right up front, it's not Alice in Wonderland,
Right.
but here's the size of the ballpark.
Right.
And, and you pick and choose from this list to fill out your score.
And then the scorecard says we have to have the towns commit to seek extra funding, or no, we don't, or whatever the other pieces are.
But you want to go to the town with survey results, right? Or not?
Yes, we'd like to go with town with survey results and with an ask, a very clear ask that they then bring back to NEAV.
Right,
So
right.
that they know both towns have the same information. And, part of our role as this group may be to, I'm not sure the right way to say it, encourage the towns to agree to the same thing.
Right,
Because we have to have both towns, so that's a piece, again, we'll have to talk to the 2 town managers and select boards to see how do you want to do this.
so if the next meeting really focuses on DOT and the school to fill out the
matrix.
matrix, that would mean that September 29th, which is the 2-hour meeting,
hammer
Have you-
everything out.
Okay, but you haven't released the survey yet.
No, I'm thinking that at that point we'll have enough of the matrix done to then be ready, have the survey ready, have the questions ready, because
So what you'll need on the 29th, I think, is the language for the postcard
yes, which we have a rough
Okay.
draft already,
and all of the links to the survey.
right,
And
which will have to be drafted and,
then if this volunteer group
Yep.
then pulls the trigger.
Yep.
Or, so do you invite the Boothbay Register to the meeting on the 29th?
I think that's a question we'll have to see where we are at the end of next week
Okay,
before we decide. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they can come to all the meetings.
right, but I
Um,
mean, they,
but
they want a hook, a news.
They
hook.
do, they
Yeah,
want,
That would be a news.
you know,
hook.
they have said that we're doing this, but there hasn't been news with it. It's just that we're doing it.
Right, but if there's a survey that's about to be released, that's a hook, they'll run with it.
But so I'm thinking they want to come at some point on the 29th, where we can give them a summary, we can give them a physical copy of the matrix,
And you can give them a survey.
and you can give them the survey and the link to go in an article. And if they have questions about the matrix, then they can reach out to, some of us to get clarification.
Right. So, and I think, again, Rob volunteered that New England Aquavenice would just format,
Print and post the,
print and post. to
right,
What's called it's every mailing
Address.
address in the two towns.
right.
That'll probably take a week.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, so, it's gonna be.
And the
it's kind of
register,
feeling to
the
be-
register will take, they publish on Thursdays.
Right.
So it would be at least a week after the 29th, if they came on the 29th before it got out in the paper.
Correct. And, the survey will be up for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
or
no more than
something,
that.
or whatever, I mean,
Yeah,
whatever you decide. And then you go to the select boards.
Correct.
So that's likely to be the end of October, the beginning of November.
Yeah,
I'm just
which-
trying to get.
Yeah,
my-
we're trying to, that's the thing, is we need the timeline in order to move through it systematically. I don't feel like spinning wheels. Let's do this work, but we have to know how to do it, and not to do it piecemeal. So we don't want to send a postcard and then post a survey. We want to have it be a package.
Right.
Yes.
exactly. Good.
So,
Okay, well, that sounds, that's clear to me anyway.
Yeah.
It's ambitious, but it's probably doable.
and
Okay,
yeah,
everybody.
everything's always ambitious. You got to aim for the stars and settle for the earth. That's the way it works.
Middle Earth.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out by email. I'm going to turn the recording off now.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye for now.